endings, broken futures, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, this is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's May 26, 2026. We got a lot of 2-6s today. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. We have quite a bit to get to on day 88 of the Iran war. Aardvark land has gone in heavy now today with a full ground invasion into Lebanon. Quite horrific, stacking the bodies. But there's a ceasefire, bro. I know there's a ceasefire, but they're stacking bodies. What do we got? We're going to take a look at, we got economic news as usual here. We got Epstein news as usual here. We have a little bit of geopolitical news. A little bit. Russia's all pissed off. I don't know. Is Russia, the evil Putin, going to blow up Ukraine? I don't know. But they're all pissed off about whacking that kid's dormitory. That's for sure. That's for sure. More talk about multipolar world order and Western hegemony coming to an end, coming out of Russia. The continuing theme in the new era, the new world order. We continue to report on here for you at Weaponized News. And the genocide in Gaza continues as well. There. They are stacking the bodies. It's quite horrific. All these details and much more on this edition of Weaponized News. I see some people coming online right now. Let's check the chat. Nobody in the chat yet. Surprisingly enough, no hate. No hate in the chat yet. Let's get to on this day in history. On this day in our history, if I can get to the tab here. On this day of May 26, we go back to the year 553. Moon Jaguar becomes the 10th ruler of the Mayan city, Copan, modern-day Honduras. Reigns for 25 years. Why can't we have a politician with a cool-ass name like Moon Jaguar? That's a cool-ass name, no? We got losers like Joe Biden and Donald Trump, whatever their stupid fake names are. We need a politician named Moon Jaguar, a la the Mayans. On this day in 1637, we saw the Mystic Massacre. Colonial forces kill about 500 Pequot people in Connecticut in the first major battle of the Pequot War. Killing those damn Indians, telling you. On this day in 1647, Massachusetts bans priests from entering the colony. Should have kept it that way. Damn religious fanatics will be the end of us, I'm telling you. On this day in 1781, the Bank of North America is incorporated in Philadelphia. On this day in 1805, Napoleon Bonaparte is crowned King of Italy. 1805 on this day. 1857, Dred Scott freed. U.S. slave Dred Scott and his family freed by slave owner Henry Taylor Blow only 3 months after U.S. courts ruled against them in Dred Scott versus Stanford. And so why is that? That's why the Supreme Court's legitimate, right? Because they said slavery is legal in America, right? Sure. 1897, on this day, Dracula. Dracula is published by English author Bram Stoker. Published on this day. Dracula. 1897, 1945. 1945 on this day, the United States firebombs Tokyo. Quite horrific there. On this day in 1966, Buddhist sets himself on fire at the U.S. consulate there in Hue, South Vietnam. And I do have the image here, this iconic image. I'm sure everybody remembers this. I think old, who was it? I didn't even do my screen share. Old Rage Against the Machine had this on one of their album covers, I believe. And then went on to be For the Machine for the Bat Times, right? So, yeah, there it is. Self-immolation in protest of the Vietnam War by this monk. Quite a selfless act for peace. Amazing. On this day in the next year, actually, on this day in 1967, we saw the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club by the Beatles. And I hate the Beatles, to be honest with you. I think they suck. I think they're a psyop. I think they're social engineering. Anyhow, here's a bunch of dark occult symbolism on their Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts album cover. There's all kind of symbolism in this thing. I think they even had, oh yeah, they had old Aleister Crowley there and a bunch of other heads, as you can see. Old Karl Marx, Marilyn Monroe, but probably my favorite it would have to be old Aleister Crowley there. Extremely dark occult going on here on this album cover. 1967, released on this day. On this day in 2004, U.S. Army veteran Terry Nichols is found guilty of 161 state murder charges for helping carry out the Oklahoma City bombing. Him and old Timothy McVeigh. The feds blew up Oklahoma City, and so they were set up as patsies. Everybody should go take a look at the OKC bombing, and you can clearly see the feds blew up that building. On this day in 2006, we saw a tragic earthquake hit Java, Indonesia, killing over 5,700 people and leaving over 200,000 people homeless. And then on this day in our civil liberties history, we go back to the year 1947. FBI memo attacks It's a Wonderful Life as subversive anti-capitalist propaganda. It's actually let me read you the report here. An FBI memo on this day attacked the now classic film It's a Wonderful Life, starring James Stewart and Donna Reed, for conveying a subversive anti-capitalist, anti-banking message. The memo argued that making the banker Mr. Potter the most hated person in the film was a common trick used by communists. And I would argue it was subversion by the FBI working for the bankers to say that if you're critical of the private central banking system, then you're a commie, which is total and complete bullshit, because the Western banking establishment in large part funded communism. Good job, FBI dupes, on that. And then also on this day in 1938 in our civil liberties history, House Un-American Activities Committee is established. 37 years of civil liberties violations follow. And so we do appreciate that under the guise of fighting subversive activity in America. Go America, spy on everybody. Now what do they have? What did Apple? I saw Apple. Now they have the wireless earbuds with a camera on them. Like everybody needs a brain chip and a camera up the rear end, and then the criminals in the government can feel safe. Maybe, possibly, they still won't. You think you're paranoid? They're way more paranoid than any of us out here on the street are, because they know they're damn criminals. All right, here's our segue to the news. Yeah, the economy shit. You can't afford fuel. You can't afford to eat. But hey, they got bread and circuses for you at the White House here coming up for July 4th. America 250, sponsored by your corporate fascist government. Here's a segue to the news. Bread and circuses on the White House lawn. UFC fighting.
I'm a fan of the intensity of the celebration.
Locals and visitors getting a first physical look ahead of UFC Freedom 250 after renderings were released this weekend showing plans for a temporary arena on the South Lawn. Crews now assembling major steel structures to surround the fighters. No football, no baseball, no soccer. Apparently just guys fighting each other.
Yeah, same as the politics right now.
Flag Day, June 14th, is the target date for the event, which also happens to be President Trump's 80th birthday. National Park Service records show event setup and tear down stretches from May 20th through late June, underscoring the size of the transformation. The Washington Post reports roughly 4,000 spectators are expected near the secured South Lawn viewing area. More people expected to gather in separate viewing areas.
I think it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's cool. Public loves bread and circuses, distractions from your corrupt government. Here's America 250. Again, I found this pretty funny. They're trying to sell us the idea that aardvarks are part of America founding. They're scapegoating the aardvarks. You understand what's happening here now? They are scapegoating them. But check it out. It's this is America250.org. The first prayer in Congress, 1774, Washington Circular Letter Prayer, and then aardvark blessing for the government, 1789. It says, bestow common sense, knowledge, and insight upon the head of our state. May he act justly toward us. Gladden and bring joy to our hearts. Amen. Congregate Beth Shalom. And so they just had to throw that bullshit in there, right? But the real bullshit is this. This is our corporate fascist government right here. And I know they care about a patriotism and the flag and all that bullshit. These are the corrupt bastards that are destroying our country right here. All these bastards. And then you go and look. Yeah, who's the sponsors? Your corporate fascist government. Deloitte, ExxonMobil, IndyCar, January AI, John Deere, Lockheed Martin, MasterCard, Oracle, Palantir, Penske, From Energy, SAP, Scott's Miracle Grow, Drink Your Roundup, UFC, and United Airlines. That is your corporate fascist government there, building monopolies, creating barriers to entry into the market so high that we have no enterprise in this country, free enterprise. We have monopoly capitalism, which is corporate fascism by another name. Let's take a look at the war. What does U.S. Central Command have to say today? Fact checking again. So it's good that we're using our resources as part of, well, I guess a big part of the war is the information war. So U.S. Central Command is fact checking. They say, recent media reporting claims that the U.S. Navy has restarted escorting or assisting commercial vessels during transits through the Strait of Hormuz. False. Project Freedom has not resumed. And U.S. forces are not currently escorting commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz is essentially closed. Khomeini's running. Iran. We won the war again, bro. We won the war again every day. And then here's Iran clowning Trump, essentially, with this cartoon video about the Strait of Hormuz. We're losing the propaganda information war here to cartoon freaking videos on the internet. It's that bad. Trump said earlier today, and again over the weekend, we reported yesterday that unnamed sources within the White House said to disregard Trump's tweets because that's for domestic consumption and literally has nothing to do with actual negotiations with Iran. So they admitted backhandedly Trump is using his bully pulpit of chief executive to manipulate markets and profiteer off of the rest of our suffering. Trump put out this message earlier today. If Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea, and their air force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped and hands held high, each shouting, "I surrender, I surrender," while wildly waving the representative white flag, and if their entire remaining leadership signs all necessary documents of surrender and admit their defeat to the great power and force of the magnificent USA, the failing New York Times, the Chinese Street Journal, corrupt and now irrelevant CNN, and all other members of the fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States of America. It wasn't even close. The Democrats and media have totally lost their way. They have gone absolutely crazy. Who's really crazy here? Now, should have never started this war in the first place. Now, should we have? Khomeini's still in charge, and the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Hashtag winning. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said it shot down a MQ-9 Reaper drone and that entered Iranian airspace. The IRGC forces also fired upon a RQ-4 drone and say they tracked the alleged stealth fighter, the F-35. They say they can see it and track it and may shoot that down next. And it's been said, well, we don't know. Did they develop this technology domestically, working with Russia and China, Pakistan? The Department of War says, no matter the problem, we have a flying solution. From heavy bombers to fifth generational fighters, our fleet delivers total aerial dominance. Is this true? We went over the reports. They shot down a hell of a lot of our planes in the first round of hot and heavy war there. That was not acknowledged at the time, but has since been acknowledged. So is this true? Have they broken our stealth technology? A lot of signs say they have. Here's little Marco.
Well, look, I think our position is well stated. The president had a very important, I think, historic call just a couple days ago with a number of leaders from the region. I think there's strong alignment and agreement on what a preliminary draft should look like. I think that, like anything with something like this, and it's going to take a couple days to settle on, even down to the disagreements over a word, sentence. So we'll have to work through that. If there's going to be a deal, we're going to have to work through that. But this is, it's either going to be a good deal or there.
Oh my gosh, $24 billion in frozen assets must be released as part of the deal. And then you go look at it and they're asking for $100 to $120 billion to be released. So, yeah. Hashtag winning. Well, we should listen to Ben Gvir. They're not happy with any kind of deal. Aardvarkland National Security Minister, psychopathic murderer Ben Gvir, went ballistic when pressed about President Trump's potential peace deal with Iran. He made it crystal clear that Aardvarkland, not Washington, will decide what happens next, declaring that no deal with Iran will move forward unless Aardvarkland personally approves it. We will not allow this to happen. A bad agreement for the state of Aardvarkland can harm human life because, as we know, old Ben Gvir is a great humanitarian that's planning on the final solution for Palestinian prisoners and has his 50th birthday cake with pistols and a noose on it.
קודם כל יש דבר, מה שנקרא, שהוא הדבר האמיתי, זה חיי האדם. הסכם רע למדינת ישראל יכול לפגוע בחיי האדם. אני יודע שראש הממשלה נתניהו וכולנו, כחברי קבינט, גם קבינט מצומצם, גם קבינט רחב, גם כממשלת ישראל, לא ניתן לדבר הזה לקרות. אבל זה הסכם רע, זה הסכם שיכול לפגוע במדינת ישראל, ואנחנו לא ניתן לדבר הזה לקרות. לא יקרה. הסכם רע לא יהיה, לא יכול להיות, משום שבסופו של דבר, ההסכם רע, זה לא קשור לבחירות או לא בחירות. קודם כל יש דבר...
So yeah, it's awesome that psychopathic murderer Ben Gvir is setting U.S. foreign policy. It's what I voted for, bro. Iran's supreme leader, Khomeini, second son of old man Khomeini they whacked at the beginning of this whole debacle, declared today that the shaken Zionist regime and the cancerous tumor of Aardvarkland are approaching the final stages of their wretched existence. So he's upping the rhetoric a la Trump, while adding the U.S. military and political dominance in West Asia is collapsing. Khomeini said the regional order shaped by U.S. military power is breaking down. What is certain in this regard is that the hands of time will not turn back, and the nations and lands of the region will no longer serve as shields for U.S. bases. Back to, you damn terrorists built your country around our bases. The United States will no longer have a safe haven for its mischief and for establishing military bases in West Asia. He added that America is moving further away from its former position day by day. He described Aardvark land as weakened, unstable, and nearing collapse. The shaken Zionist regime, we read that at the very beginning. He says, by God's grace and in accordance with the decisive and forward-looking words of our martyred leader 10 years ago, the Zionist regime will not live to see 75 years old after that date, God willing. Khomeini framed this year's Hajj, the pilgrimage to go worship the Saturn square, right, as part of a wider political and ideological confrontation with Merca and Aardvark land. Down with Merca, down with Aardvark land shall become the common chants of the Islamic Ummah and the world's oppressed, especially among the youth. He said the resistance front stretching from Iran to Lebanon, Palestine, Iraq, and Syria helped launch the Alaska flood operation October 7 and pushed Aardvark land closer to collapse. Describing the recent regional wars, Khomeini said Iranian and allied forces humiliated the great Satan, meaning America, and its trained animal, the Zionist regime. Iran, he said, dealt a severe blow to the aggressor, America, and thwarted efforts aimed at forcing Iran's surrender. Khomeini just don't know that we won, all right? That's the problem. Sahid Gashmanjad on the X posted this. I thought it was pretty good, so I'll read it to you now. It says, if Washington could not dismantle the Iranian regime's nuclear program when it had military and financial leverage, good luck doing it when both are gone now. And America is losing all leverage for what? So Persian Gulf countries can sell oil at a lower price to China and Europe instead of them buying it for a higher price from America. And there is and will be no talk of getting rid of Iranian missile program, defunding proxy armies, or human rights for that matter. Here's Professor John Mearshire. Sorry, telling it how it is. Telling it how it is.
The United States has lost this war. It can't figure out how to solve this war. And it's going to have enormously negative consequences for all of you. You should understand that. We are in deep trouble in Iran. And this is what happens when you go around the world slaying monsters.
Indeed. Losing the propaganda war. Here's a short one from over on the X, Where Forbidden. It's a short one. I think we had to kill the music, but you get the gist here. Putting lipstick on a pig, essentially. Oh, there's more. Here's the latest Lego video. One of many. This is explosive media. Trump's victory delusion. It's real bad. It's real bad. Here's more. How Iran is effectively bypassing the U.S. blockade of Iranian ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
Reportedly, America blocked Iran's ports. Iran found another way out. Iran activated its rail route to China through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. The sea takes 40 days. The train takes 15. The US Navy cannot stop a train. America's blockade just became less effective. While America was blocking the sea, the UAE made a historic decision. For the first time in over 60 years, the UAE reportedly left OPEC. The reason is simple. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. No oil exports mean no money. The UAE cannot wait for America and Iran to finish their dispute. The UAE is now free to sell oil to whoever it wants at whatever price. The UAE was 15% of OPEC's capacity, and now that is gone. The oil market is more unstable than it has been in decades, and here is what no one is saying. If the UAE sells oil in Chinese yuan instead of US dollars, that could challenge the petrodollar system America has relied on since 1974. The petro.
It's time to go ahead and bomb the hell out of UAE. See what's happening here. You know things are bad when even Mr. War, former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, says Iran is playing Trump because he's desperate to make a deal. Bolton went on to say he thinks everybody wants to make a deal on just about anything. That's not what these people are into. And they can see that Trump is so palatably desperate to have a deal that he can declare to be a victory. They're playing him on that. They're stretching him out. They're buying time. All that works to their advantage. Sad to say, looks like pretty spot on analysis there by John Bolton. Sadly enough, Mr. Mustache Man. Not the saxophone player, this John Bolton, right? Oh, man. But thankfully this was reported, and we did report it at the time. Aardvarkland citizen Ori Solomon, who's arrested for operating an illegal biolab in Las Vegas. That was tied to the biolab here in Reedley, California, right down the road from me. It contained deadly pathogens, including HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, bats, rats, you name it, right? Has had all federal charges dismissed, and he is free now to return to his homeland of the Aardvarks, this character right here. And so we wouldn't have it any other way. Cook up bioweapons in your makeshift lab in your garage and then have all charges dropped so you could go I don't know, molest some kids. That's what they're into, right? So yeah, America, justice, yeah. It's pretty beyond the pale, but I guess we wouldn't have it any other way. Don't be an antiseptic. They're cracking down on antiseptics everywhere. And again, they are allowing these septics to go out and be bloodthirsty psychopaths and do a bunch of massacre murders to get everybody pissed off at them because they're the scapegoat, you see. Not that they're not evil for doing all these murders, but they're allowed to do so you can point the finger at them instead of pointing it at the banking cartel. The Justice Department, still covering up the Epstein files, sues the University of California for antiseptic hostile educational environment. Earlier this year, the Department of Justice sued UCLA for subjecting its aardvark students and aardvark employees to an antiseptic, hostile work environment. Now, the Department of Justice calls UCLA to account for its toleration of the equally appalling hostile educational environment against its aardvark land and aardvark students. There you go, because this is what really matters to America. You see, antiseptic, hostile educational environment. I don't know what caused that. I don't know, committing genocide? Interlochen to demolish lodge donated by Jeffrey Epstein. I don't really like this demolishing of stuff and getting rid of history. Honestly, even if it was Epstein. But what's the name? Wexner, right? Les Wexner's all over freaking Ohio State University, all these buildings that he donated with his name all over them. This one in Michigan, Interlochen Center for the Arts will soon demolish a building donated by Jeffrey Epstein. The arts camp in northern Michigan cut ties with Epstein, a former student and donor, in 2008 after he was convicted of soliciting sex from a minor there in 2008, Florida. All donor recognition was removed at the time, including renaming the Epstein Lodge, which was donated by Epstein. It is now called Green Lake Lodge. And so they're going to get rid of that lodge altogether because it's tainted by old Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. New Mexico AG calls on Epstein survivors to come forward amid Zorro Ranch investigation. Let's watch this report out of Scripps News. If it will load, maybe it shall load. Maybe it won't load. Here it is. This is Scripps News, yeah.
Today in the Epstein case, former AG Pam Bondi is set to testify before the House Oversight Committee on Friday. Her testimony comes as lawmakers are still clashing with the DOJ over how it is handling the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Scripps News senior national correspondent Alex Miller is live in New York.
What's up with dude's earring? Should I get an earring like that, audience? No? Too fake and gay? Probably. Anyhow, I was distracted by his earring.
New York with the latest on this. And Alex, I want to get to what we hear from Pam Bondi in just a moment, but first we learned of an update regarding the Epstein investigation in New Mexico. What can you tell us?
Well, Del, just a couple of minutes ago, the sitting Attorney General Raul Torres putting out an open letter talking about his investigation, which he reopened into Zorro Ranch back in February. They searched the property the first time ever in March. Now he is asking survivors to come forward. He put forward this letter talking about the importance of their voices and wanting to hear from him. And this is in line with what I have heard personally from the people investigating what happened in Zorro Ranch. There is a truth commission happening right now in the New Mexico legislature, and I spoke with one of the 4 members on that commission, and she said they are getting information from survivors. Survivors are reaching out to this truth commission, but that the commission is directing them straight to the DOJ. Representative Andrea Reeb, she says that they want the DOJ to get the first look.
So it's more cover up. It's going nowhere because you're directing these people to the DOJ. The guy's covering it up.
look at these survivors, to be able to interview them, to find out if there was anything that they can do in terms of prosecution for these survivors to get their stories before they go back to the Truth Commission. So this is what we are hearing also now from the Attorney General, asking these survivors to come forward. Right now, there is really only one known New Mexico resident who is a survivor. But
come forward and testify to the DOJ, and they'll cover it up. They may even whack you at this point.
We know from talking to people on the ground, I was on the ground very recently there, they have many survivors who have come forward over the years to sexual assault survivor networks to come forward about their stories, but they have not yet been heard by the government.
Yeah, and there were those unconfirmed reports that there might have been bodies buried on the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. But I want to go to former AG Pam Bondi. She's set to sit for her deposition on Friday. Lots of members are going to want to hear whether she takes the fifth after her last appearance before Congress. What are we expecting from her?
Well, Doug, we were supposed to hear from her nearly 2 months ago. She was supposed to sit for a deposition in early April, right before she lost her job as the sitting Attorney General. There's a lot of questions about what we will or will not hear from her. If you remember, that hearing back in February was one of the most contentious. I covered Capitol Hill for many years. I had not seen something.
I don't know what they're even talking about. The Dow's over 50,000, and that's really all that matters. Yeah, they're funky over there. They're getting funky. Maybe it's growing on me. Scripps News outfits are growing on me. They're pretty funky.
So hostile, not only from Democrats and Republicans, but from Bondi herself. There was a lot of frustration there. There was also frustration from the survivors. There were a handful of them in the room that day, sitting right behind her. They stood up and raised their hands when they were asked about whether they wanted to speak with the DOJ, whether they had been contacted by the DOJ. None of them, they say, had been contacted by the Department of Justice. And she, for her part, dodged a lot of questions from Democrats on this issue. And she had some notes. If you look at the screen right now, there's some binders in front of her, and she had what looks like information about the different Democrats, their search histories at the Department of Justice when they went there to look at the unredacted files. And so there are a lot of questions about what we are going to hear from her, particularly because of her loyalty to the president. We have seen her be incredibly loyal. Obviously, he fired her, so there's questions about whether she will maintain that loyalty. She has been in hot water, Del, over the Epstein files really since she assumed this position in February 2025, right after inauguration. She handed a bunch of binders to pro-Trump influencers at the White House, saying that this was part one of the Epstein files. It turned out those were files that had already been released. She said that she had a client.
Clownfluencers, all feds, all pieces of trash.
Sitting on her desk. Turns out, she says, there is no client list. And of course, during her tenure as Attorney General, she did not release all of the files. And by the way, they still have not yet been released.
Alex, from the file of
the DOJ cover-up continues. I'm glad that New Mexico's Attorney General's looking out for the victims. Tell him report to the DOJ. The guy's covering it up. Can't make this stuff up. Corruption at every level. Corruption at every level. Norway's royal family faces Epstein questions as Mette Marit's health worsens. Crown Prince. At least they act in Europe. They're like, hey, this is pretty bad. We should at least act publicly ashamed. Here in America, they're just like, yeah, it's a Democrat hoax. Sure, bud. Sure it is. So, yeah, looking at her, she's in bad health. I'd be in bad health, too, if I was all up in the Epstein's. You know what I mean? She's on oxygen now. They're taking a look at her, the royal family. Seriously doubt. Well, I don't know. UK at least defrocked old Andrew, right? So maybe some justice coming there for victims out of Norway. But she's playing the health card and probably is in bad health, you know, walking around with the oxygen tank and the routine. So the investigation continues. They're in Europe, UK, France, not so much here in America. At the same time, well, you guys heard about this, now it's coming out, 23andMe is, what are they trying to say? Oh, they're looking for alien DNA. 23andMe face serious privacy issues, but what should concern people is not just the breach, it's the timeline. Millions handed over their DNA to a private company. That company built one of the largest genetic databases in the world. At the same time, Jeffrey Epstein's documents show his obsession with genetics, transhumanism, and seeding the human race with, and seeding the human race. He has re-entered public discussions. His foundation reportedly distributed 23andMe kits throughout his social circle years ago. So many kits 23andMe flagged for him. So isn't that awesome? You think you're tracking your family ancestry back, your family tree, and Epstein is backhandedly using whatever genetic, biological material they got from you to go ahead and do some kind of crazy eugenics, transhumanist experiments. So that's wonderful. Reporter who investigated Jeffrey Epstein is fleeing the United States after alleged directed energy weapons attack. A journalist who has reported extensively on late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's notorious New Mexico ranch says she is fleeing the country, claiming she was the victim of a directed energy weapons attack. Elisa Valdez Rodriguez, a former Boston Globe and LA Times reporter who later became a best-selling novelist, said she abruptly abandoned her New Mexico residence after suffering what she described as symptoms consistent with Havana syndrome. This is the New York Compost. I don't know, did they whack this reporter with a directed energy weapon? Her? It appears my home has been located by, well, whomever is unhappy about my reporting about Zorro Ranch and the local cover-up here and the military intelligence roots of the child sex trafficking operation Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were running here in New Mexico. She wrote last week on her Substack. This morning, I was hit in my home office by 2 episodes of what I later learned were likely direct energy weapon attacks, she wrote. We wasted no time in leaving the house for good. There is no known public evidence supporting her allegations. Rodriguez's claims escalated sharply in subsequent posts in which she alleged the attacks may have involved a backpack-sized weapon placed on or near her roof by private military contractors. The second round of attacks seemed to have come from the back of a large semi-truck that parked across the street from her house, she wrote. These devices have gotten smaller now. Some are the size of large machine guns. We've seen the LRAD gun, the handheld one. She further claimed the operators could generate a 3D model of the inside of your house in real time and zero in on a body part. The former newspaper reporter compared her condition to Havana syndrome. Yeah, well, they do have that technology, as we continue to report. Department of War brags about it now. Did they use it on her in this instance? I have no idea, but that's what she's claiming. caused her to leave her residence there in New Mexico. All right, we're moving right along here. Here's a crazy story. Did the dog do the shooting? I don't know. Take a listen to this report. Scotts Bluff police respond to gunfire at convenience store after dog accidentally shoots person with a shotgun. Can't make this stuff up, right? I'm trying to get back to the here's the beginning of this report. Did the dog really shoot somebody with a shotgun?
Investigating an accidental shotgun discharge at a convenience store. Police say officers were called just after noon Saturday to the short stop on Avenue I, first reported as a BB gun shooting, but later confirmed to involve a shotgun. Investigators say the owner of a pickup with a camper had stopped to shop when a dog in the back seat moved and apparently triggered a loaded shotgun, firing into the passenger side door panel. One pellet struck a woman who was stopped at a nearby light with her arm out of the window. Police say her injury is not believed to be life-threatening, and she was taken to Regional West Medical Center. Police also remind the public it's illegal under Nebraska law to travel with a loaded shotgun in a vehicle.
Man, I'm telling you, that dog didn't even have a license, right? Wild. Okay, on to NASA here now. Talk about fraud. They're building this big NASA base. They gave the big contract, big NASA base on the moon, allegedly. They gave a big contract to old Jeff Bezos because he doesn't have a gazillion enough dollars. Here's they call it NASA Moon Base. And they gave the contract to Bezos' company, Blue Origin. And here's the presentation. NASA reveals a phased timeline for colonizing the moon with settler outposts. Are they ultra-Zionist settlers? They're going to go and burn the moon down? Wouldn't surprise me at this point. Yeah, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin lunar lander won the contract to establish the lunar base. Maybe Katy Perry can be one of the pilgrims on the moon. Let's watch this presentation about the latest, greatest fraud coming out of NASA.
So let's get started. This is a chart that kind of describes the vision that we delivered during Ignition Day. We envision the moon base to be hundreds of square miles with different assets, all building up to the objective of permanent lunar presence on the moon. To get there, we're going to break it up in phases, and phase 1 has already started. From now through 29, we're going to work to make sure that getting to the lunar surface is a high reliability endeavor. Many assets we can deliver there. We're also going to test and experiments. The science of survival, as the administrator said. We're going to experiment on the things that we know are ahead of us that we're going to need to build a permanent infrastructure, which is happening on phase 2, and then permanent habitation on phase 3. To do this, we're building and working on many different systems, from transportation to mobility, and we've broadcasted a pretty high cadence of missions that will help us to get there. Phase 1, for example, will have 25 launches, 21 landings, and we're planning to deliver about 4 metric tons of cargo to the surface of the moon. And we want to graduate from that to 60 metric tons to 150 by the time we get to phase 3. If you go to the next chart, when you think about the lunar surface and the endeavor of building a moon base, it's going to be extremely hard. And it dawns on us every day how little we know of the lunar surface. We did the Apollo program, we've had lunar probe, we've had a spacecraft, robotic spacecraft that have gone back to the moon, but we have explored very little. So we envision multiple assets. Those 21 landings is to deploy many types of assets in different areas where we have objectives for science, or we think it's a good place to develop the moon base. We're going to have landers, small and medium class. We're going to have constellations of satellites that will enable communication, navigation, pointing, observation. We're going to have rovers and LTVs, and also we're going to have drones. So, to talk about all of those assets, we're ready to make the first major award. And that is, something we advertised during Ignition Day, is for the LTV delivery landers. Through CLIPS program, we requested task plans for delivery of one or multiple 1 metric ton class NASA payloads to the South Pole region. In the base period of that task order, we'll basically ask the vendors to finalize the mission design, integrate and develop the integration plans, execute long lead hardware procurements, design and test the payloads, and demonstrate the compliance of the payload delivery system to the surface. Then in subsequent options, if everything goes well, they will build the lander spacecraft. So, the long-awaited moment for the delivery of all the LTV awards that we're going to announce today, NASA has selected Blue Origin. All right, give everybody a round of applause to Blue Origin. Congratulations. Blue Origin's lunar lander product line has two variants. Mark 1, which is the uncrewed version, is what we're going to be using for the delivery of the LTVs, and Mark 2, which is the crew lander mission. So using Mark 1s will also reduce the risk for future crewed missions there. Mark 1 is the same type of vehicle as Endurance, which is featured in Moonbase 1, the first mission to the lunar surface. Mark 1 type of spacecraft is also going to deliver the Viper rover later in the fall of 2027. So congratulations, Blue Origin, and we are looking forward to this partnership to deliver the first lunar terrain vehicle as part of Moonbase program. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, you're a big part of the fraud now. Here's a big report on clownfluencer fraud out of California. Let me take the live commercial break, and then we'll get to that report. Ruckus had a funny joke. The suspect has been collared. Let the dog go free. All right? The dog has a right to self-defense, the same as all the rest of us. This is America, damn it. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker. Pride Month's coming up. You can see the rainbow on the holograph there. Weaponizednews.com/shop. We got the white background sticker if you don't partake in Pride Month. And we have the clear background sticker there. This is a demo. You'll get a brand new one. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. We have baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all kind of gear over there, a few different books. Go take a look. The link's in the description below this video, weaponizednews.com/shop. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All of that's free for you. The like on some of these channels does work maybe half the time. I don't know. I think it does boost you, maybe, possibly. Anyhow, and I'm running low on dopamine. Give me those likes. I do have a couple videos going quasi-semi. What does it even qualify to go viral anymore? Over on the Facebook, on the Reels, there's a video clocking, I don't know, last time I checked, like almost 9,000 views. And so it may not be a lot to you, but to me, coming back from essentially being banned off the internet, only place I could broadcast was Bitchute and freaking Odysee for years. It's kind of a big deal. Anyhow, I guess they're supplying me with my dopamine in that way. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Links in the description below that video. We take donations, buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, and Cash App. All the links in the description below this video. If by some strange twist of fate, for citing John Bolton, for example, we get kicked off one of these platforms, all the platform links are in the description below this video. We'll probably be on one of them. Most likely Bitchute and Odysee will remain, but who knows, unless they shut off the whole internet. So all the ways to access Weaponized News broadcast in the links in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber of Weaponized News Substack. We give away everything free. You can get the value at Weaponized News Substack is you show support for independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week by Weaponized News. We provide the full show there, a summary of the show in written form so you can read through there, see if it's worth your time, if there's some interest there for you, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. Weaponized News Substack. Become a paid subscriber. Again, everything there is free for the public. I'm doing my public service like that. Any which way you choose to support us is truly appreciated. Thank you to all the donors, subscribers, and patrons to the store. Give me that like, share, subscribe. Push that notification button. weaponizednews.com/shop. I always go an hour. I got to get better about plugging because nobody gives you an hour with no plugs, or very few people. And this is an independent operation. We're not funded by the government or any of these clownfluencer operations out there. It's this is what you get from true independent reporting and analysis. And so I know that the audience out there does appreciate it, and show your appreciation even more by give me a like, share, subscribe, push that notification button back. Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Tuesday, May 26, 2026 edition. Semaphore Media. I think these guys are like a spin-off group of the failing New York Times, I believe. Anyhow, they did a big report about clownfluencers here in California. California influencer disclosures offer a glimpse at how secret money distorts American politics. You don't say. Let's take a look at this report. California Black Women's Collective Political Action Committee has officially endorsed Tom Steyer for governor, citing his record on reparations. That was a big con job that California did on the blacks, sadly enough. HBCU investment and economic mobility for black women. And they're literally wearing clown noses for the clown fluencers here out of Black Women's Collective. On May 15th, the Instagram gossip hub, the Shade Room, shared a lengthy post to its 28 million followers on Instagram promoting California gubernatorial candidate Tom Steyer's criticism of Paramount's acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery. Roommates with a Trump ally already controlling that much of what we watch. Are y'all backing Steyer's plan to block this? The account wrote. The post generated over 17,000 likes. Give him a big dopamine hit, that's for sure, as well as hundreds of comments and shares. 6 days later, the publication updated its post with a note. The account had received a $25,000 payment from the Steyer campaign, according to campaign spending documents shared last week. The Shade Room is hardly alone. The latest financial disclosure forms released last week showed that the campaign paid $400,000 to progressive influencer Carlos Eduardo Espana, also, as well as $25,000 to Tommy Marcus, who posted under the name Quentin Quintino. Earlier this month, the Southern California meme and news account Foes Gone Wild posted an interview with Steyer clad in a black t-shirt and a black LA Dodgers hat to its 3 million Instagram followers. According to last week's disclosure, Foes Gone Wild was later paid $50,000 by the campaign. And it goes on. It goes on. So, yeah, the large majority out there. Hey, you listen to Weaponized News. I sit here and tell you the government is a crime syndicate. They're all criminals. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian. Name the freaking guy. It's a crime syndicate. So there you go. And your clown influencers are getting paid handsomely to push these criminals on you. So you should not follow or listen to any of these paid for political accounts. You've been warned about the corruption here and the scams and the fraud by Weaponized News. J.D. Vance, fraud, scam in and of himself. Mr. Technocracy, propped up by Peter Thiel. Changed his name 3 times. Was he even really a hillbilly? I'm starting to even question that. J.D. Vance says everybody should care about fraud. We do. And we're calling you out, Mr. Vice President. Let's watch this short clip because you're part of the fraud. He's now the federal fraud czar as they've declared a full-on war against fraud. But they are the fraud.
In Oregon. And as I've said repeatedly, this should not be a partisan effort. Everybody should care about fraud. Everybody should care about rooting out fraud. Everybody should care about saving the American taxpayers' money.
We do. Abolish the central banking cartel. You won't hear any of these politicians ever even talk about it. Like the last one to even talk about it was Ron Paul, right? His son, Rand Paul, every once in a while, and a couple others. I think, Senator Lee out of Utah, a little bit. They're like, yeah, let's try to audit the Fed. No, an audit's not going to cut it. We need to repeal the Federal Reserve Act, or this fraud will continue indefinitely, and the corruption of our society will continue indefinitely as long as we don't have sound money and they can print money at will. They can print enough money to bribe and corrupt anyone and everyone. And that is the core issue here now. But the fraud czar won't talk about that. I know you were sad when you saw that Elon Musk didn't win that contract for the moon base and went to Bezos. Don't be too sad for Elon Musk, because SpaceX, which is actually weaponized, part of Skynet, essentially here now, SpaceX on the same day has been granted a $2.29 billion contract from the United States Space Force. So the weaponization of SpaceX is going full speed ahead. And so thankfully, Elon Musk, Mr. Technocracy, is getting another $1 billion of taxpayer money to continue the fraud. Trump administration full-scale war on fraud. The White House put this out today. What does Denver say? Ron Paul equals Coca-Cola Classic in the glass bottles. Rand Paul equals Coke Zero in an aluminum can. Oh, that's so mean, but it's so true. It's so mean, but it's so true. Trump administration, war on fraud here now. So there's a war on everything. So thankfully, the peace candidate and the peace campaign of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have declared war on essentially everything while losing all these wars. Trump and Vance are unleashing an unrelenting full-scale assault on the fraudsters, scammers, and corrupt operators who have looted billions from American taxpayers. It's just not true, again, or they would go arrest the bankers. And so it falls on deaf ears here. And it's good to clean up the little frauds here and there, but in large part, it's going to amount to jack. But they can roll out some Somalis. They'll roll out some Somalis, and they'll roll out some other minorities, and throw in some whites and be like, look at all these fraudsters. They're all Democrats, right? Yeah. we're bringing back trust to the government. No, you're not. No, you're not, because the bank is running the whole fraudulent fiat debt-based monetary system that's economically enslaved America. And so until they address that issue, I'm sorry, it all falls on deaf ears. And they go through all these cases, and they were running a bunch of frauds all over the place. Yeah. A bunch of hospices that don't exist in LA, cracking down on that's like low-hanging fruit. They're cracking down on food stamp fraud, SNAP fraud. That's like a one-finger golf clap. That's been going on my entire life. I can remember back before we even had all this electronic stuff. On the street, people were selling food stamps for 40 cents on the dollar. I mean, give me a freaking break here now. Small Business Administration referred 562,000 fraudulent or delinquent BAT-era loans totaling $22 billion. You guys did. Operation Warp Speed created this whole freaking fraud. So why don't you take a mirror and look at it, and then you can find all the fraudsters, government. I mean, so yeah, there's little frauds going on here and there, but again, the big picture, they don't want any part of it, which is repeal the Federal Reserve Act, crushing billions of dollars in Medicare, hospice, childcare, and many other types of fraud. The Trump administration is bringing accountability and justice back to the American taxpayer. Taxation's theft, abolish the 16th Amendment, abolish the Federal Reserve Act, and then maybe I would take you guys halfway seriously. But until that happens, you're giant frauds, part of the crime syndicate known as the U.S. federal government. Here's, I found this one funny. It's like a 4-minute clip. I won't even play it, but Colin McDonald, Assistant AG for National Fraud Enforcement, addresses state attorneys general. He says, holding criminals accountable, protect victims of crime, and restore trust in your government. It's just laughable. Come join us in the nationwide fight against fraud. We are ready to partner with you. I would seriously advise against working with the feds. For all you know, they'll set you up. Seriously, that's who these people are. Aaron Day had a funny post, and it's funny because it's true. He says, it's Tuesday morning, yet the first day the markets are open after a holiday weekend. Time for a fake "we have a deal with Iran" announcement so that Lutnick and the boys at Cantor can get their short positions in before the 2 p.m. dump. And that's what they're doing. But hey, they're fighting fraud. They're fighting fraud, let me tell you. Full-scale war on fraud announced today by the White House. For the average price of a car in the United States, you could buy 5 new Chinese electric vehicles, according to Reuters. So we're getting price gouged by these monopolies, or oligopolies, I guess would be more accurately to describe them. So they're allowed to run oligopolies and price gouge the hell out of us. So we do appreciate those efforts fighting fraud. Business schools are offering up to 50% off Masters in Business Administration MBAs, according to Entrepreneur, as that degree is going the way of the dodo bird. NVIDIA is benefiting from strong demand, but is selling into a concentrated set of buyers whose own demand is being distorted by a training and benchmarking phase that will not last, said Michael Burry, of course, the Big Short dude. It's a circle jerk of fraud there with the big tech AI bros. Brent oil jumps more than 3% after Iran vows to retaliate for U.S. strikes, and we covered that yesterday. There's a ceasefire, but they're shooting people and stacking bodies there in the Strait of Hormuz. So, but there's a ceasefire, so probably not much to worry about except for the price of fuel here now. It did actually go down today again, surprisingly enough. Let's take a look at AAA national average for the price of a gallon of gasoline here in America. It went down to $4.49 today. That's down a good, 1 cent from yesterday. So it's going down a little bit. I don't even want to look at California. $6.10, rounded up to 11. So yeah, I walk now. Sad to report to you. I now walk in California. And again, let's take a look at the cost burden of this Iran war on U.S. households. According to Brown University, the Watson School of International Affairs and Public Affairs, the household burden of both gasoline and diesel cost is up to $367.13 per household here in America. And the total cost burden since the beginning of the Iran war on February 28, 2026 is up to $48.1 billion. And so we do appreciate propping up. We won the war 88 times now. So I guess it's well worth that $48.1 billion price tag we're paying. And of course, a massive inflation across the board, but especially hitting hard at the grocery store. I guess we should feel good we still have groceries in this country. More on SpaceX. SpaceX pressed Pentagon for higher Starlink fees during the war in Iran. So Elon Musk is a war profiteer. As Elon Musk's Starlink network powered U.S. kamikaze drones in the war in Iran, senior SpaceX executives concluded that the Pentagon should be paying significantly more for access to the satellite internet service. According to two sources familiar with the discussions and Pentagon documents reviewed by Reuters, SpaceX officials met with Pentagon representatives within weeks of the war and argued that the military was paying roughly $5,000 per terminal connection while effectively using a higher tier service valued at closer to $25,000 per terminal connection. The dispute centered on Starlink's use in Lucas suicide drones. Interviews with 5 people familiar with the matter, along with reviewed documents, indicate the disagreement is part of broader tension between SpaceX and the Pentagon over Starlink pricing in recent months. Both have also reportedly clashed over pricing for a separate plan aimed at giving Iranians internet access, according to two sources. And Iran, I believe we reported yesterday, has turned the internet back on there. And so we do appreciate Elon Musk playing all sides and everything in between there, and profiteering handsomely and essentially extorting the Pentagon out of a $20,000 maybe per terminal connection. We do appreciate those efforts. The self-made gazillionaire propped up with government contracts and war profiteering. South Korea reveals the Jangbogun-in project, the development of domestically produced nuclear-powered submarines, with the first one expected to be ready by mid-2030. So South Korea is rolling out nuclear-powered submarines. That's what they're saying. Bloomberg reports here now, China's Great Bay Area will fuse 11 cities into a megapolis that includes Hong Kong, which Beijing hopes someday will be the new Silicon Valley. Let's watch this report out of Bloomberg. Exciting. The technocratic hellscape.
You're looking at the largest continuous urban area the world has ever seen. 86 million people fused into a single $2 trillion economic engine. It's known as China's Greater Bay Area.
It's a bold, very ambitious attempt by the Chinese government to integrate 11 cities.
For China, this is just the start. Its latest 5-year plan pivots from individual cities to a focus on mega-regional China, a network of 19 massive clusters with the Greater Bay Area as a primary engine for growth.
China's relying a great deal on the Greater Bay Area to provide this kind of a powerhouse innovative economy with a long-term goal.
Smaller cities connecting into larger ones goes back millennia. Yet we're no longer talking about a few thousand merchants following a trade route, but instead hundreds of millions of people integrated into a single labour market. Where gaps once took centuries to close, rail lines and relentless paving are swallowing the landscape at a rate of kilometres per day.
After 6,000 years of urbanism, cities are becoming larger and larger. Every single city is continuing to draw in more and more people for the kinds of opportunities that they can't get in any other sort of place.
Economists believe that unifying the world's massive urban centres can revitalise economies and redefine the rules of growth. What happens here in China could be a blueprint for the future of humanity. This is China's Megalopolis project.
There you go. So that's exciting. Go to your 15-minute megapolis city and be completely monitored and controlled by the government. It's what we call freedom here in America. All right. That's a great look at the future. Here's a report from Greg Reese, proofs and hypothesis for the Great Reset.
Project Nanook, the Strategic Air Command's mission over the Arctic in the late 1940s, revealed that the magnetic North Pole was moving about 10 miles per year and is accelerating exponentially. After being analyzed by the OSS and the RAND Corporation, it was decided that reporting this news to the public would destroy the moral fiber of society and was kept private. Charles Hapgood, the lead geoscience researcher working within the same network, produced the crustal displacement theory, which argued that rapid catastrophic shifts explain how Antarctica was once temperate, how the Sahara was once green, and how mammoths were flash frozen with undigested tropical plants in their stomachs. In 1965, Chan Thomas, an aerospace engineer who worked for McDonnell Douglas, published a geological book titled The Adam and Eve Story. The CIA subsequently classified it, removing it from public access. After a FOIA request, a sanitized 57-page version was released. Those pages describe a crustal shift completing in 6 to 12 hours, generating supersonic winds and walls of ocean water 2 miles deep. The flood myth appears in over 200 independent cultural traditions worldwide. Immanuel Velikovsky hypothesized that these mythologies are not metaphors, but eyewitness accounts of real catastrophic events within recorded human history, events that can be seen in the historic record. The Younger Dryas impact theory suggests that a comet struck around 13,000 years ago, wiping out many species of animal and causing a mini ice age that lasted more than 1,000 years. Göbekli Tepe was built about 11,600 years ago and required engineering precision that archaeologists cannot explain. The Sphinx shows water erosion from rainfall that last occurred in Egypt 10,000 years ago. The Piri-Reis map, drawn in 1513, shows Antarctica's coastline accurately as it exists now under the ice. The pattern shows that about every 12,000 years, a civilization gets reset. But how this happens is a mystery. Wallace Thornhill and David Talbot developed the electric universe theory, which proposes that plasma is the fourth state of matter and makes up 99.9% of the visible universe. According to their theory, planetary encounters produce massive electrical discharges, which have left geological scars still visible today. Many other researchers point towards the sun. Robert M. Schoch of Boston University makes the case that the abrupt end of the last ice age, almost 12,000 years ago, was not caused by a comet, but was caused by solar outbursts that increased earthquake and volcanic activity, fires, high radiation levels, and massive floods. Among his evidence for this is vitrified stone at Scottish Hill forts and on the Giza Plateau. Douglas Vogt has been studying the causes of geomagnetic reversals since 1971. He identified the exact number of years between reversals to be 12,068 years and argued that during a reversal, the sun novas and causes an ice age. Ben Davidson, of Suspicious Observers, believes that a geomagnetic excursion event will cause a geographic crustal shift at a catastrophic scale, and that this cycle repeats about every 12,000 years. Astrophysicist Paul Laviolette argued that periodic superwaves from the galactic center, occurring roughly every 12,000 to 26,000 years, produce a crustal torque, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and massive solar events. He believed that the zodiac system encodes a warning about these catastrophic superwaves, and that smaller superwaves occur more frequently. Jason Brashears of Archaics.com theorizes that catastrophic reset events occur to some degree every 138 years, driven by what he calls the Phoenix phenomenon. He expects a significant event in 2040, with a larger phenomenon he calls the Nemesis X object in 2046. Most of these researchers seem to agree that the cycle is approximately 12,000 years, and the last event was between 10 and 12,000 years ago. And when you look at the behavior of world governments and the world's billionaire class, one can make the argument that a great reset is expected to happen soon. Greg Reese reporting.
Exciting. We're moving into a multipolar world to replace Western hegemony. Russian foreign minister spokesman. Is this, I think it was translate. Yeah, it's this is a Russian Security Forum conference. Let's take a listen about it.
The multipolar world order that is coming to replace the Western hegemony, the developing countries are trying more and more to ensure favor carry out foreign economic activities based on their own national interests, not based on some conditions imposed on them. And the West is trying to use neo-colonial methods to preserve their domination position, but this is a false domination. This is not a true domination, but they fight for this illusion to go on for as long as they can, and they use sanctions to cling on this illusion. And we are not even speaking about sanctions, about legitimate sanctions. We are speaking about a trade war on a global scale. The multipolar world.
Russia and China calling out the global hegemon. Warning, warning, warning to those on Facebook. The Department of War has announced the Department of War CTO now on Facebook. So you can get a whole bunch of war propaganda over there on the Facebook now. There you go. Department of War CTO is now on Facebook. It's exciting. Ben-Gvir, he says they got used to decades of police not entering their turf. Sorry to disappoint them. It's over. Yesterday, I entered Tuba Zangaria together with the IDF, Border Guard, and police forces to deliver a clear message. We embrace the normative citizens, but those who collect protection money and engage in crime, the police won't back down. And so he's cleaning up the rackets there, old Ben-Gvir. Let's watch this video he put out earlier today, because he's the head racketeer, you see.
ואנחנו בעלי הבית כאן. אנחנו שולחים אותך הביתה. יצאנו פעילות נגד קובעי הפרוטקשן, העבריינים. אנחנו כאן ליד טובה זנגריה. עוד מעט ניכנס גם לשם. המשטרה עובדת ערב כדי לטפל בתופעה הזאת. מסכן שהיית בעל הבית. נגמר כאן, צריך לפחד. מי אתה שתגיד לי את זה? מי אתה? מי אתה? שום שר, ביטחון.
And it just goes on. Ben-Gvir going around shaking people down. Bibi, shadow president of America, says since Operation Lion's Roar, we have eliminated approximately 2,500 Hezbollah terrorists. During the ceasefire alone, 700 Hezbollah terrorists were eliminated. More terrorists were eliminated throughout the entire Second Lebanon War. There's ceasefire there. Our forces are completing the destruction of terror infrastructures adjacent to our communities. Large IDF forces are operating deep in the territory, controlling areas and fortifying the security zone. In Beirut, we thwarted the commander of Radwan force. We are leading a massive national effort to advance solutions against explosive drones. Against Hezbollah, we do not stop fighting for a moment, and there's more to come until ensuring full security of Aardvarkland citizens. So they're building the Greater Aardvarkland Project, committing ethnic cleansing and genocide now against the Lebanese. And here's the video. So they tried to tell them, stop posting your war crimes on the internet. They just can't. There you go. That was posted by Bibi, right on his X account. I know they're a riddle wrapped in an enigma, right? The championed antiseptic who is not septic and calls septics antiseptics. Yeah, Denver, you got it. They're a riddle wrapped in an enigma, and they take the bait to act like complete psychopathic murderers because they're complete psychopathic murderers. But again, they are being used by the Anglo-American establishment as scapegoats at the end of all this. You must understand this, i.e. City of London, i.e. international banking cartel. We have now struck in Gaza. So they whacked this Hamas leader. They claim, Bibi claims, Mohammed Defi, the leader of Hamas's military wing, and one of the architects of October 7th massacre. I thought you were one of the architects. When's Bibi going to turn himself in for being one of the architects of October 7th? Because he was. I don't see him turning himself in anytime soon. Cats. They're all out today. All the aardvarks are out barking loud today because they're doing a big ground invasion into Lebanon. Cat said, under the direction of Bibi and myself, the IDF is now striking in Gaza against the leader of Hamas military wing, the terrorists, and one of the architects of October 7th massacre. He was one of the architects as well, but a minor detail, right? Yeah, they're going in hard and heavy into Gaza again, whacking the Palestinians all over the place. 5 Palestinians were killed and several more wounded in airstrikes earlier today in central Gaza. Yeah. So there's video, people blowing up the war porn, right? I'm not going to show it, but there's video, people Palestinians' arms and legs blowing off, the whole routine as we've come accustomed to. But hey, get those terrorists that did October 7th. Maybe the whole Aardvark Bibi cabinet could just turn themselves in and we'd be done with it. It's an idea, just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there, trying to help the war effort. So they whacked these 5 guys, the 5 Palestinians that were killed there. Local reports and family members. So, yeah. It whacked them. That's reported out of the Cradle. There's a ceasefire, though. Let me tell you. On to the big move. The big move here. Ground invasion into southern Lebanon. Bibi tells us we are intensifying our operations in Lebanon. Thank you to our commanders and heroic soldiers deep in the field. And he doesn't even bother to translate it to America, to English. We're the ones freaking funding this whole operation. Yeah, I can't take it. So, but that's what he's announcing here in his language. Our land Prime Minister Bibi officially announced earlier today that Aardvark Land is expanding its military offensive in Lebanon with, quote, large forces on the ground, despite the so-called U.S. announced ceasefire that remains in effect until July. Bibi claimed Aardvark land occupation forces are controlling strategic areas and fortifying the security belt to protect northern Aardvark land settlements as Aardvark land continues to violate the ceasefire through ongoing ground incursions and attacks across Lebanon. Old Smotrich, Aardvark land finance minister Smotrich, openly declaring intentions of genocide against Lebanon. He said, the most effective way to stop Hezbollah is simply to announce that for every FPV drone, 10 buildings in Beirut will be destroyed. I think we reported on that yesterday. For example, if he's still saying it today, though, in a different setting, I believe. He went on to say, if there are 7 drones, then 70 buildings. If there are 15 drones, then 150 buildings will be flattened. There'll be no drones, and they're going to flatten the whole place. So it doesn't really even matter at this point. Your best bet is to send as many drones as you possibly can, because they're leveling the whole place regardless. You see? IDF has begun ground invasion beyond its self-declared yellow line buffer zone in southern Lebanon. The advance targets Hezbollah fiber optic drone launch sites that have been killing and wounding Aardvark land soldiers inside the zone. Here's a map out of Al Jazeera so we could get a better idea about this ground invasion. So at first we were told, oh, we're just going to take the land to here. Now they're like, nah, well, we're going to go ahead and take it up to here. And what the hell? We'll just take all of it. So the Greater Aardvark Land project is continuing northward here now. It's north for them and south for them, I guess, right on the map. So, yeah, I guess they're trying to take all of Lebanon at this point. They said, oh, just the Litani River. Well, no, they're already beyond. They're already beyond this. The UN blue line is quite laughable as well. And so, yeah, full-on ground invasion there. The yellow line, similar to Gaza, and then everybody by this, they whack them and then say, how dare you get near our yellow line. And then, as the Aardvarks are famous for, they're going after the water supply. Now, Aardvark land airstrikes hit roads adjacent to the Qurnaun Dam in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. And we have video of that. So, poisoning the well as per Aardvark usual routines. And so again, that's a war crime targeting civilian infrastructure. Their water system there. Yeah, they don't care. You're a terrorist if you say that's bad. The Aardvark Land Army has issued new forced displacement orders for 27 towns and villages across southern Lebanon. They gave them a few hours to evacuate. Families were forced to wake up children, evacuate elderly and disabled relatives, and leave behind all their belongings or risk being killed in Aardvark Land airstrikes. Here's the warning. And so it's good of them to ethnic cleanse southern Lebanon. There you go. All these places. Leave or get whacked, and they may still whack you. So, yeah, there's the same pictures, bombings in the distance since dawn this morning in Lebanon. Aardvark Land has launched at least 110 aggressive attacks on villages and towns across southern Lebanon, with some locations being struck multiple times. Aardvark Land attacks are ongoing as we speak here. I guess we'll show some video. You can see in the distance, they're leveling the place, creating an apocalyptic hellscape akin to Gaza. There you go. You can see there in the distance, they are leveling the joint. As we continue to report here, rescuers ordered to halt operations in southern Lebanese town as survivors remain trapped beneath the rubble. The International Monitoring and Implementation Mechanism, the U.S.-led committee, comprises of Aardvark Land, Lebanon, France, UNIFIL, tasked with overseeing the Lebanon ceasefire, has instructed emergency responders in Marqa, a town in southern Lebanon just east of the coastal city of Tyre, to suspend rescue operations despite confirming reports that survivors are still alive beneath the rubble. Yeah, you'll be whacked next. At least 9 civilians have been killed in the latest Aardvark Land attack there. And with 4 injured and 4 still missing, possibly buried beneath the rubble. Here's some of the aftermath of where's this out of? This is out of Markarhi in Tyre, where rescue efforts are underway. And so they're leveling the joint, as you can see here.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. هون كذا عائلة يا شباب.
حبيبي تعال لك شوي.
إمام عليك. يا الله دخلك. عائلة كامل. إمام عليك.
Quite horrific. Lebanon's health ministry reports at least 11 people were killed, 15 wounded in that attack. We have more video. This one, yeah, they leveled the place. Another kid blowing up. There's video of that. Little kid looks like, I don't know, 2-3 years old. It's horrific. I'm not even play the video, but child was pulled from the rubble of a residential building there in southern Lebanon. They whacked this family. Among the first victims identified on the Asru, another town there in southern Lebanon. They whacked these guys, the father and 2 sons here. There you go. There you go. And Lebanon, too, by the way, has like around 35% Christian population. Who cares? Spit on them and genocide them. That's the aardvark way. So, but hey, anything to get those terrorists. Lebanese Ministry of Health says in the past 24 hours, 28 people have been killed, 104 injured. We showed you a bunch of the damage there. The Lebanese Ministry of Health says since October 2nd, 3,213 civilians have been killed and 9,737 wounded. There, Lebanese. It's only going to get worse. It's only getting worse now, isn't it? Wowzers. Former ICC prosecutor faced Mossad threats and blackmail over Palestinian war crimes probe. Former chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Fatu bin Soda, has revealed that she faced intense pressure and direct threats from Aardvarkland intelligence to halt investigations into war crimes in Palestine. In an exclusive interview with Al Jazeera, she disclosed that former Mossad chief Yossi Cohen targeted her in Munich and New York, explicitly demanding that she terminate the judicial inquiries into Aardvarkland actions and directly interfering in the international tribunal. The intimidation campaign quickly escalated into blackmail attempts targeting her family, including the surveillance and tracking of her husband to exert leverage over her decisions, despite reporting the espionage and security threats to Dutch authorities. The former prosecutor noted that she received inadequate protection, while ICC member states failed to provide the necessary political backing to shield the court from Aardvarkland state pressure. The court has previously defied Aardvarkland and Western pressure by issuing formal arrest warrants for Aardvarkland Prime Minister and Shadow President of America, Bibi, and former Defense Minister, Gallant, over documented war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. And that's all the reporting we got for today. Let's check in on, did they blow up the world while we were live here? Apparently not. Headlines out of Iran International. Trump holds talks with Bibi as Iran negotiations near critical stage. Iran caught red-handed breaking ceasefire. Former U.S. envoy says there is no ceasefire. U.S. says Iran carried out series of hostile moves before latest strikes. CENTCOM releases photos of F-22 refueling over the Middle East. Iran says they broke our stealth technology. I don't know, but a whole hell of a lot more planes and assets were destroyed when this thing was going hot and heavy than was initially reported, and now has been acknowledged. So maybe they did break our stealth technology. U.S. shifting to gradual pressure strategy against Iran. UN Security Council condemns attack on UAE nuclear plant. And Iran restores internet access after 88-day blackout. You get it? 88? You get it? They're doing some backhanded numerology trolling there, potentially, on day 88 of the Iran war. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it right now. Not kicking off hot and heavy quite yet, but we're nearing that point now, aren't we? All right, Al Jazeera headlines. Anything new here? Aardvarkland kills 31, update, right? Kills 31 Lebanese there now. And Iran accuses U.S. of violating ceasefire. You violated the ceasefire. You violated the ceasefire. Well, at least the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. What a giant disaster this Iran war is. New wave of displacement in southern Lebanon, i.e. ethnic cleansing. Presence of U.S. warplanes reportedly putting pressure on Aardvarkland airports. Got to have somewhere to park the warplanes. Half our bases are blowing up there. IMF in loan talks with Bangladesh amid economic shock of Iran war. And who's there? Who's there? The bankers. They're loving it because this is all part of the agenda. So yeah, they're loving it. Western banking is going to swoop in, right? They're going to swoop in and try to give them these BS loans and try to steal as much actual assets as they possibly can with their fiat debt money. That's the program. Go check out Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins. He tells the whole story about how the system actually operates, and it's not for humanitarian aid. They're not do-gooding philanthropists. They're bloodthirsty killers. All right, that's all the reporting I have for today. Let's check out the Odysee. Odysee's jacked up, man. I guess it's working. Let's see if I can see. Let's see if I can get to Odysee. Okay, here we go. It definitely doesn't work like it used to. Shout out to Danger, Huffman, Deep, Fat Bob over there on the Odysee. Let's see. I don't trust the accents. Huffman says China could solve America's homeless problem. Fat Bob says. Oh man. Danger says because China doesn't want invaders, they enjoy their hegemony. Oh man. Huffman says the crust moving around the iron cores sounds quite possible. Danger says suspicious observer has been following and reporting this pole shift for several years now. Age of Aquarius, Fat Bob says. Indeed. Indeed. The multipolar world sounds like a Marvel Studio movie title, Fat Bob says. It does. It does. They're like, what, Bond villain type characters at this point. Dr. Strangelove and the multipolar world of tomorrow. You will learn to love the multipolar new world order. Let's see here. Huffman says they just use infrared heat seekers. The stealth is bullshit. Radar cross section and toxic paint. A big jet engine has quite the heat signature. Good point from Huffman Aviation. His name is Aviation, so makes sense. Makes sense to me. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in on the Odysee and keeping that chat lively. Thank you for tuning in on Bitchute, Kick, Substack, Facebook, Rumble, and X. I was following a little bit of the comments over here on the YouTube and the Rumble that I can see come through on my Restream feed. Try not to get too distracted and get through all this news for you. Let's see here now. We'll start with Chloe. I think Chloe's trolling me a little bit over there on the Rumble in a constructive way. Denver says when government declares war on anything, it becomes the primary proprietor of that activity, drugs, alcohol prohibition, disease, etc. Fraud. So, yeah, I agree, Denver. Poverty, added war on poverty. they're the primary progenitors of all of this war against everything. So expect a whole lot more fraud. Let's see. Fat Bob says, I like stuff from others as Emma Catherine. Yeah, I try to get her on. I'll hit her up again. Emma Catherine, for those that don't know, she interviews these abuse victims, MK Ultra abuse victims, the SRA abuse victims. It's about all the same thing. Trauma-based, fear-based mind control victims, and they go deep into it. And so the good news is that more people are becoming aware of the fact that this is a very real thing, the fear-based, trauma-based mind control. And that's the good news. The horrific news is it's ongoing and it's destroying people. But the good news is more people are becoming aware that this is a real thing through the efforts of Emma Catherine and others. I don't know about Brendan O'Connell, Fat Bob. I watched that whole video. I got questions about that dude as well, because he calls everybody's feds, everybody's no good. That's all fine and well, but I got questions about him. They say Lurley on the YouTube says, I just got a warning that this video may contain self-harm content. Weird. That is weird. We're 100% pro-peace here and don't want anyone to self-harm themselves. So don't self-harm yourself. And Putin's bad and Trump's bad for YouTube. Trump's awesome on Rumble. I don't know what else to say. Definitely don't do the government's job for them. That's for sure. What are they talking about? Oh, the whole Chinese thing. Yeah, those smart cities are super scary. Josh said. What's super scary is they lock us in there and say, "This is your world now." 15-minute city. Go past that yellow line and you get a freaking drone. You get droned or whatever insane thing they got planned for you. But it's for the environment. It's for the greater good. It's like, again, all the dystopic novels are together on that Venn diagram. If you've seen that meme, right? They're all together, and you are here in the middle of all these dystopic sci-fi novels, which in many cases are predictive programming, mind control tools used by the system to convince us that that is our future and we have no agency or free will in the game. And I don't believe that's true. A big part of the psyops and the propaganda and lies is the demoralization to try to convince us we have no power, we can do nothing. It's a foregone conclusion. And I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that's true at all. I believe if enough people say simply, we're not complying with this, they can't go forward. There's a small group, right? A very small group at the top of that pyramid running things. And if the slaves don't go along with it, they can't get it done. That's why technocracy get rid of the humans that may have a crisis of conscience and say, we don't want to go along with the termination of the large majority of the population, a la Georgia Guidestones. We are going to turn back on you guys at the top of that pyramid. They know that. Revolts have happened throughout history, pushing back against tyranny. And that's why they're phasing humans out, because they know that's a very real possibility. And the robots, which they're programming, a la Terminator style, weaponized humanoid robots, dogs, drones, all kind of this crazy stuff. We showed that, a year ago? I forget even how long. China has that one crazy ball robot, right? That like is amphibious and all this. The ball rolls, goes through the swamp, pops up, machine guns everywhere. It's like, whoa. You know what I mean? So as soon as they can, and we're moving, as we continue to report here, the Department of War brags about it every other day. fully autonomous weaponized systems, if they can ever get all that in place, then I would be less optimistic about our future. But they're not there yet. They're not there yet. They're the pedal to the metal, trying to get there as fast as they can, realizing that if the people actually just say, no, we don't want to go to this dystopia you guys have planned for us, then it could all stop. And so they know that, a la technocracy. All right. Shout out to Mac over there on the YouTube. Shout out to A-Dub. Yeah, I'm telling you, A-Dub says that pisses me off what Aardvark Land's doing. Telling you, man, war crime after war crime after war crime after war crime. All with our backing, all with America's backing, is the really truly disgusting part of it. Honestly, let's bring back protectionism. Let's bring back, don't get caught up in foreign entanglements. You know what I mean? And hey, we wouldn't even have to be reporting on this if America wasn't backing the whole genocidal endeavor, right? We'd say, let them, I would say, hey, it's bad what's going on over there. That's their deal. We got enough problems here. But they married us to this now. What does Rucka say? When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some crazy. We're there. We are there. A Back to the Future reference from Ruckus. Let's see. Denver says DuckDuckGo is Google also. It's not a different thing. Just uses the privacy label as competitive differentiation. Yep. Excuse me. Yeah. Didn't Google buy DuckDuckGo a couple of years ago? It is in QTEL, which is CIA, NSA, and many of Google's leadership are Eastern European Zio adjacent. That's yeah. Working through the searches, yeah. What about didn't Google just say there is no more search? Everything's AI now, going to be custom tailored for your own echo chamber? I think they left out the echo chamber part. It's all for your own good, of course. Shout out to Zio and Pamela on the Rumble. And last comment there from Mac on the YouTube, Pope. Denver says DuckDuckGo uses its own crawlers, but uses Bing, which essentially was built with Google's code. Well, thank you for that clarification, Denver. All right, friends, let's pray for peace. Let's pray for peace. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening, and we're back here on Wednesday for more Weaponized.